Movies, TV, sports, flicks. Movies, TV, sports, flicks. Movies, TV, sports, flicks.
The Captain Talk Flicks.
Movies, TV, sports, flicks. Movies, TV, sports, flicks. Movies, TV, sports, flicks.
The Captain Talk Flicks.
Welcome to the Captain Talk Flicks podcast. I'm your host, the Captain Cortez, aka Mr. Love, and this is where we talk flicks. Welcome to the podcast where me, the Captain, talks about movies, TV, sports, flicks, anything you can see on a tuber screen. I like to here give my unique perspective. Because after 46 years of being on planet Earth, I've developed a new perspective about these movies, TV, sports, and flicks. I'd like to hear you tell you about it. Because just maybe you care. And according to the stats, looks like you do care. I want to give a big shout out to Gabon. Got some plays over in Gabon this past week. Gracias, gratitude, todo rabá, and Gabon. I heard you guys got like lots of oil. All types of oil over there. Just so much oil, bro. Maybe I had to invest. I don't know. I think see what's going on. But I heard you got lots of oil. Very cool. So anyways, thanks for listening. Appreciate gracias, gratitude. And just FYI, back in the day when school to be a radio DJ, but never got a job. I think I never got a job because I didn't read enough. I just didn't read enough books. If I would have read more books, maybe that would improve my knowledge and intelligence and help me become a radio DJ. But I never did that, and I never became a radio DJ. But that allowed me to become the greatest podcaster in the Matrix. Subject to debate. Might be true, might not be true, but I said it on the internet. So it's gotta be true, right? Because everything on the internet is facts, not facts, true, false, propaganda, fake news, the Matrix. Cars, planes, trains, automobiles, food, commerce, Star Trek. I don't know. I didn't make the internet. I asked the people that made the internet. So when you're online, just be aware, just watch out. Anybody's can ramble here all day, but it won't. Let's get right into the podcast. But first, a word from our sponsor. Ladies and gentlemen, life is very busy, fast, complicated, stressful, right? It may be. Maybe you feel it is. Sometimes it can be. So I feel a good way to handle the busy craziness, stress of life is with meditation. I like to meditate. I do meditation quite regularly. And when I meditate, I sit and meditate a lot of times. So, sitting on a hard floor is kind of like, tough on the butt. So one of the ways I like to get a little more comfortable with meditation is by sitting on a meditation pillow. And guess what? If you want a meditation pillow, we got some over at the Existing Fiction Sales store. We got some cool meditation pillows. So when you're on meditation, sit on something a little comfortable. So I'll put a link below to the meditation pillows. Check them out. And when you meditate, just relax, be comfortable, and get in that Zen space. Because I guarantee you do some meditation, you will feel a lot better. So check it out. I'll put the link below to the pillows. Now, let's get on with the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I am back once again. Here I am after a wild, crazy week. This week, my sleep patterns were all messed up. I was emotional. Monkey mind was creeping in. A lot of changes were happening. I had to do a lot of stuff. I went out in the real world to all these different places I don't normally go to. To be completely real with you, my life is pretty patterned and regular. I got a pretty routine pattern, unfortunately. And this week, I was all over. I was going here, going there, doing this, doing all types of stuff I don't normally do. And to be honest with you, I was a tad bit uncomfortable. But then I remembered, hey, bro, no. Be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Be comfortable being uncomfortable. So I remember that, and I kind of just walked through it. And here I am on the other end of that, chilling, doing podcasts, feeling great. Yeah, I didn't die, bro. I'm still here. So anyways, nice busy week. But you know what I did this week? I got to sit down and watch my favorite franchise. And you guys know what it is if you've been here before. I talk about it every week. For like the last year and a half. Every week I talk about this franchise because it is my favorites. It's my favorite franchise. And you know what it is. I'm going to say it because you already know. I'm talking about the one and only Star Trek Everybody knows it. Everybody knows that the Captain Che Cortez's favorite franchise is Star Trek. But if you didn't know, now you know, baby, baby. So yeah, Star Trek is my favorite. And I got to watch Lower Decks this week, the new episode called A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. That is a great title. The title's fantastic. A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. That is a fantastic title. The titles they've been doing this season are just great. These titles make great song titles. I mean, they're so great. They're just great titles. But real quick before I get into the podcast, I want to let you know that there probably will be spoilers. And also, I do own some shares in the parent company of Star Trek. I want to let you know that, to be perfectly clear. So I do own some shares in the parent company, which means I do kind of have a financial interest a little bit. But to let you know, I love Star Trek before I owned a piece of Star Trek. I love Star Trek so much, I got a piece of it. So to let you know that I want to be completely clear and transparent. So yeah, so I told you all that. Now, let's get into the good stuff. So ladies and gentlemen, this week, Star Trek Lower Decks, A Mathematically Perfect Redemption. Let me just say this from the jump. This has to be the most trippy episode of Star Trek Lower Decks to date. I mean, like trippy, like kind of like psychedelic-y, like crazy, like my mind was just like going to like oh my gosh, like it's just like so weird, trippy, crazy. It was fantastic though. It's not meant as a negative way. It was so good, like crazy, weird. It was just crazy, weird, trippy episode, and I loved it so much. It's not what we normally get from Star Trek Lower Decks. And at first, the first few minutes I was kind of like, but then as it went on, I was like, this is great. It was so trippy. Felt like my mind was in an altered state. It's so crazy how trippy the episode was for the most of the episode. Then as the episode progressed, they got into regular, Lower Decks mode, right? But I think like the first 15 minutes, man, it was just so trippy. Kind of reminded me like of, I don't know, that heavy metal cartoon from back in the day. And it's just a very interesting vibe. Like the vibe was so, I can't even really explain it well enough. I just know it just put me in a different state of mind. And I had just got done watching Beavis and Butthead prior to that. So I watched Beavis and Butthead first, and just watching Beavis and Butthead like puts me like in this crazy state, because Beavis and Butthead is craziness. Just real quick, Beavis and Butthead is absolute madness. I've talked about it in the podcast before. It's just so madness. That went from Beavis and Butthead to the crazy journey of Peanut Hamper. I mean, like that's the name, Peanut Hamper. When she was on the episode, whatever it was a while back, just that name was tripping me out. I was laughing like Peanut Hamper. Like that's the crazy name. And to have the crazy lady with a crazy name, with a crazy trippy episode. I just got done watching Beavis and Butthead. Like that 45, 50 minutes of watching this, I was just like in just a trippy, weird state of mind because the episodes are so crazy. And I love it. I love the fact I got to take a break from reality and get into this crazy, weird, trippy state of mind. It's dope. It really was dope. And additionally, like Star Trek normally don't go to this space, right? The vibes I got from this particular episode, A Mathematically Perfect Redemption, were some vibes and feelings and just you don't normally get from Trek. It was craziness. It's going to be very interesting when the Lower Decks crosses over with Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I don't even know what to expect. But this episode is like trippy crazy to me. I imagine this episode coming up with the crossover is going to be craziness. But anyways, I'm not even going to go deep this week about Star Trek Lower Decks. I could, but I'm not even going to do it. I think the main thing out of this particular episode is just how crazy and trippy it was to me, and how it's not like any Trek I've seen before. I've seen all Trek, everything, all the movies, all the episodes, and this was a brand new, unique, interesting, weird, crazy vibe. Now, one additional thing too. I told you guys I hadn't been sleeping that well this week, so part of it might have been the fact I hadn't been sleeping that much. Like, I think that day when I watched it that Thursday, I had not got no sleep that day. I had to do a lot of stuff. I was busy. I was kind of so spent of energy. That might have added to the vibe of watching the show. Maybe I'm making more of it than it was, but I'll tell you what, it was tripping me out. It's just a trippy episode, and I loved it. This is not meant as a negative. It's like it's cool. It's cool just to change that vibe, man. And maybe watching Beavis and Butthead, like I said before, maybe added to that. I don't know how many of you guys that watched Lower Decks also watched Beavis and Butthead, but when I was coming up and watching Star Trek Next Generation back in like late 80s, 90s, like I was a young person, and also Beavis and Butthead came out like I think 96, 97, I don't remember what year it was, but I was heavy into Star Trek when I started watching Beavis and Butthead originally back in the day. So I've loved these franchises going way back. If you don't know, Beavis and Butthead drops the same day that Lower Decks drops, and generally I watch them same time. Usually I watch Beavis and Butthead first, and then close it out with Star Trek. I watch the crazy stuff first, and then generally the more serious. I mean, Lower Decks is a little more serious than Beavis and Butthead. But this particular week, it was trippy. So let's just say this. Great week on Paramount Plus. I mean, seriously. I mean, Beavis and Butthead, craziness, trippy Star Trek Lower Decks episode. I might have to watch it. I'm going to get some rest and watch it again and see if it hits me the same way. It may or may not. I just want to say this. What they're doing over at Lower Decks is so fantastic. They had an episode last week with Deep Space Nine that seemed like a Deep Space Nine episode. This crazy, trippy, weird episode. It just shows what you can do with Trek. You can go in so many different directions, do so many different styles of shows. Like the amount of storytelling that can be done through Star Trek with the different shows, cartoons, live action is infinite. Right? It's just who's creating it, who's writing the stories. There's limitless ways you can go with it. So Star Trek right now is so fantastic because you're just telling so many different various styles of storytelling. I know some people want the storytelling to be like it was in the 90s, and it was all similar. It was that style. And I love that style of storytelling. I love those old school Star Trek. I grew up on those things. But I'm also open to this new way of storytelling with Trek. This new, sometimes crazy, sometimes weird. Just different styles, man. Different ways of presenting this story, this franchise, these characters, and weird, strange, sad, angry, different ways you can present it. It's so dope. I love it. If you've not seen any of the Star Trek, go over to Paramount Plus, because that's where it's all at. All the Trek is on Paramount Plus right now. I think that might be the only place you can go to in the United States for Trek, I believe. I might be wrong on that. But if you want Star Trek, it's all right there. And that's, like I said, this is my favorite franchise. I highly recommend it. It is the greatest franchise of all time. You will learn the most from these shows. Out of all the franchises out there, you will learn the most from Star Trek. I guarantee that. I'll put it up against any franchise out there. You will learn the most from Star Trek. Guaranteed. You ain't even got to go to Sunday school, shorty. All you got to do is watch Star Trek. So anyways, that's all I want to talk about. Star Trek, Lower Decks. A mathematically perfect redemption. What a trippy episode. So dope. So anyways, thanks for joining me. Appreciate your listens. Gracias, gratitude. And until next time, we'll see you. On the edge of destiny, you must test your strength. Billy Bishop. Until next time, it's Captain Peace.
The Captain Talks Flicks.